Today we're going to look at finding what that noise is. Sounds like the water pump, sort of that area. It's been making a bit of a whine for a few weeks now and I've just never looked into it. Now it's got too bad, I need to sort it out. So today's video is tracking down that noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the car up and then we're going to have a listen under the bonnet. The noise sounds like it's coming from this area, either the water pump or it's one of these other pulley. So I'm going to get a screwdriver, I'm going to touch each thing and listen. A long screwdriver should do. What you do is you touch the thing and listen to it through the screwdriver and the noise should be transferred through so you can find out what the problem is. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to rev it and listen. So this is the water pump, touching the water pump. Bit of noise, not horrendous. And now I'll touch the alternator. That's noisy. Yeah, it's the alternator. The noise is really loud from that. So it looks like the noise is coming from the alternator, so we need to take the alternator off the car. Oh, I will show you though, the alternator is still charging the battery. Let me show you. So in my discovery, I have fit an aftermarket voltmeter in the centre console, just so I can keep an eye on the alternator and what it's doing and the voltage in the car. It's just down here in between the window switches. I'll start the car and hopefully it should show up. You might be able to see. It's showing there you go, it's changed. It's showing 14.5 volts. If your voltage, if you have a voltage meter, if it's not showing 14.5 volts when your engine is running, that means the alternator is not charging the battery. Alternators tend to charge batteries at 14.5 volts. Another telltale sign that your alternator is failing is your rev counter will drop to 0, and that is because the rev counter actually works off the alternator. So mine is still charging, it's still working, it's just very noisy, which leads me to think that it's the bearing in the alternator that's failed. So I'm going to take the alternator off and have a strip down and see if I can get a new bearing for it. Now looking from the engine, the alternator is on the right hand side of the engine, it is just down there. and to get to it we need to take the airbox off, the turbo pipe, and we need to disconnect the battery and the cables from the back of the alternator, and we also need to disconnect this auxiliary drive belt. It's pretty straightforward and should only take about 10 or 15 minutes. It can be a bit fiddly sometimes, so I recommend taking everything off around it that you can, within reason, obviously, without draining coolant systems and stuff like that. You don't want to go daft. Don't want to go crazy, do we? Right, let's get cracking. So the tools that I'm going to use are long bar, try not to drop it, long bar, 15mm socket, fan spanner, pair of gloves, and my nice shiny new 1/4" ratchet set. Bit windy today. Now we can get to the alternator. We've just got to disconnect the I think there's 3 cables on the back of it. Take the heat shield off, take the 3 cables off, and then we can take the alternator off the engine. One thing I like to do with anything like this, before you start taking cables and things like that off, get your phone, take a picture of it so that you know which way it goes when you want to put it all back together. Now we're ready to remove this top bolt there and the bottom one, which is just down here. So there's one at the bottom and one at the top. So that's the alternator off the car now. Join me in the next video when we'll be stripping it down and having a look at what's wrong with it. Always remember to keep your nuts and bolts in a bag, that way you don't lose them. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.